So since we moved to the country about a year ago, and it's the middle of December, I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of recap where we've been the past year, because I didn't even know what homesteading was a year ago and had really no desires of gardening and different things like that. And also to set some goals for 2023. So a little bit about our story. We moved from the city to the country a year ago in the middle of December. Moved here, kind of wanted to have like a ski lodge with high-speed internet, and it's quickly become a lot more than that. So our remodel kind of took a lot of December and January, and then I started looking around at the different neighbors, and I'm like, we have so much more garbage than them. Like, how is this possible? And I was also on a major TikTok binge. So I deleted TikTok and I started to look at some ways to like reduce our footprint. And I started with knitting some dishcloths instead of using paper towels and things like that. I had knit a little bit before. And some of the podcasts I listened to, like Oka Bode, Homestead, started getting into some YouTube, really had some great ideas on just how to be more self-sufficient. So maybe late January or early February, we decided we wanted to get chickens in the spring. So we took some advice from a friend and we ordered chickens about 16 weeks old, so we didn't have to deal with the hassle of a brooder light or anything like that. So we were all set and ready for those to come in March. Around that time, we got introduced to a local farmer right down the road, and she raises pork and chicken and beef, kind of a one-stop shop. So we really started procuring our meat locally, right down the road, organic, and just was a great way to get involved there. Mid-March, I decided, actually, we visited the farm and I said, what on earth are those birds? And they were guineas. So mid-March on a Friday night, against Reno's advice, we got some guineas. We went to Tractor Supply in Rural King, got the supplies, came home with some guineas. They were super cute when they were little, super obnoxious now. So about a week after that, we got egg-laying hens, about 6 of them, came to what we fondly call the farm. The owners before us called it the farm as well, so definitely not a full-fledged farm, just like what we like to call it. So yeah, and then began the wait for when we were going to get our first egg. That didn't come until April. Through the podcast and the YouTube videos we listened to in April, we got our first Azure Standard haul. So we really started buying foods in bulk and really caring about sourcing organic or non-GMO food for ourselves for the most part. Gardening, I tried my best over the spring to grow some seedlings. Didn't really work that well. So we got a little bit of a late start to the garden. I think we got it fully planted in June. That was quite the effort. We took a field and made it a garden. I had never tilled before. That was quite the experience, and I think probably the best workout you can get. So the garden got planted. Then I decided I'm going to want to can and preserve all this food. I've never canned before. So I started getting into canning just with some food that I would buy at the grocery store. We started using flash food. You can get produce, different meat, half off, things that are coming to date. So I thought that was a great opportunity to get into canning. As the summer progressed, we did 2 rounds of meat birds. We got John Siskovich's book. Reno built the chicken tractor, and we raised 2 rounds of meat birds, 60 in total. And then the garden harvest started coming in and doing a lot of canning. So that kind of took us to the fall and was kind of our year in homesteading. So we did egg layers, we did broilers, we did lots and lots of gardening. So it was a really good year. I'm so excited for next year. I learned so much. I would say that my win was being able to preserve my own food. It's so awesome every time you open a can, get something out of the freezer that you grew yourself. And I think probably the downfall is taking on too much at once. Like we moved here in December. I had no desires of doing any of this, and we kind of took on a lot at once. It got a little stressful for absolutely no reason at sometimes. So being that my biggest takeaway was food preservation, I want to show some of our favorite things that I've canned and then make some dinner with it. I asked Reno what his favorite things were that we canned, and you know, he made the comment that he hasn't been able to try much of them. I've become very protective over my food because it took so long to grow and so long to can that it fits for special occasions. So I talked first about getting involved with canning with foods from the grocery store. So we came across peppers that were on sale. I made some pepper jelly. This was back in May, not from my own garden, but a really, really nice treat that we like, also good to give as a gift, and it was an awesome intro to canning, water bath canning. Another thing, we don't grow apples here. I also made apples from the store. Applesauce can be used for a wide variety of things, so another easy one to get started with. Next into some of our staples. I had so many tomato plants, I think 40 or 50. We had a little bit of a bug issue over the summer, but I still did get a lot of really great tomato sauce. Since it was my first year, I didn't can it with any spices, just a little bit of salt. So you can use it for a lot of different things, for spaghetti sauce, for chilies, really anything that you need tomato sauce for. It's probably our most used. Secondly, I always keep some chicken stock canned. This was my first intro to pressure canning. That's not something that you have to wait to the summer to can. You can keep as much as you want on the shelf and then make more when you need it. All right, some of the simpler things, we pickled some banana peppers. I had a very bountiful pepper harvest this year. So these came in, I think in October. We were still getting tons of peppers. So we did a bunch of jars of this, good on pizzas, salads, etc. And then some plain pickles. I did like some sweet pickles, and I also fermented some dill pickles that were super, super good as well. So we have a lot of pickles, definitely a lot of cucumbers. And then onto some of the fun items. I went strawberry picking at a local farm. We didn't grow strawberries, but I made some low sugar strawberry jam. Really good. I like the lower sugar recipes. It tastes more like fruit than sugar, which jams and jellies are really like half sugar, which was, I knew that like subconsciously, but actually following a recipe, you're like, wow, should not be adding this much sugar to something I'm eating. Another thing that we made was some like zesty relish, really good, cucumbers, peppers, pretty simple recipe, but definitely a staple for us. Peach salsa, again, I didn't grow the peaches. A friend and I got peaches from the peach truck. And this is, so you get a bunch at one time. So we had made some peach salsa. This definitely, I think, only yielded like 4 jars. So we make sure we really enjoy it. The last 2 things, I think this is called cowboy candy. It's candied jalapenos. We had so many jalapenos. These still turned out really spicy, but a byproduct of this was the juice from the canning. So we saved the juice. I then canned some of the juice. We actually used it to marinate a pork loin in yesterday. So good. And then we also used some of it with tomato sauce to make a barbecue sauce. And I think this is my absolute favorite thing that we canned. It's a zesty barbecue sauce. Delicious. We'll definitely probably run out before we can make more, but this will be on our list to can moving forward. So let's go make a chili. We can use some of the things that I canned from this past year, as well as some of my ingredients from Azure and some tips and tricks I've learned over the past year. All right, so we're going to make some chicken chili. Oh no. We've got the stove on. We're gonna start up sauteing some onions. I already chopped those because A, I'm not a good chopper, B, they make me cry. So we'll get those in there. I definitely did not plant those. Those are from Azure. My onions were very, very sad. As I said, I didn't get my garden planted until June. So onions just don't do well when they're planted in June. One thing that we do have from the garden though are some peppers that we froze. And I was so excited to freeze peppers. I love green peppers. They were like the best thing to eat from the garden this summer. I haven't used them yet. So we'll just do a quick chop of these. Oh, Star's here eating onions on the ground. All right, we'll get those into saute. We're just gonna get some garlic in here. I did not grow this garlic. You have to plant garlic in the fall. So we weren't here last fall. We planted a lot of garlic this fall. We're excited about that. All right, so now that we've got the onions and peppers working, getting sauteed pretty good, we're gonna put our tomato products in. I am going to use a jar of the homegrown, home canned tomato sauce. I wanted to get a little bit more tomato product in, things that I didn't can. I have some organic diced tomatoes. I got these on Flash Food, and some tomato paste that we got off of Asher. Now, I'm really good at making a mess in the kitchen, so I hope that as I'm starting to document a little bit more of my homesteading journey and cooking, maybe I can make an assessment of why I'm such a disaster. All right, so we have the tomato paste in. And we'll get some diced tomatoes in too. I like a little texture in my chili. I think that goes to the whole debate, is chili or a soup. All right, so we'll get that working. Because I'm using chicken, I was thinking more of like a white chicken chili. It obviously has a lot of tomato in it, so pink chicken chili maybe. So we'll put a little bit of chicken stock in with this to lighten it up a little bit. Chicken stock is one of my favorite things to make. It's one of the biggest differences, like taste-wise, I think. Bouillon cubes, could never. All right, now we'll season it a little bit. Chili powder. And then most of my other seasonings are from Asher. So I buy them in pretty big quantities, but it works for us. We do a lot of cooking at home. So we'll do a little bit of smoked paprika. I don't have cumin on hand right now. That's actually my next Asher order, so fortunately we will have to do without. We'll do a bit of cayenne. I always like a little dash of cinnamon in my chili. Alright, then we'll just do some salt and pepper. Okay, so now onto the good stuff. I already had the beans and the chicken cooking in the Instant Pot. Now, I used to be quite the Instant Potter right before, well, in like February or January 2020, I think I got an Instant Pot, and I've learned it's really big in the homesteading community, so continues to be a staple for me. All right, so because the whole chicken and the beans cook about the same amount of time, I just threw them all in together. I do keep a lot of beans on hand. That's something new for me. Order them from Azure, keep the bulk of them downstairs in food storage, and then just keep what I need up here in quart jars. All right, so I'm just gonna pick apart this chicken and get some shredded chicken in there. All right, so we shredded up the chicken, got the chicken in here, set aside the rest of the chicken in a different container. We'll use that in a variety of ways throughout the week. So, ready to put the beans in. There's some extra liquid in here from the water I cooked them in, but also from the chicken cooking in there, creating condensation. I personally like to cook beans that way. I think it gives it a little bit more flavor when it's cooked with something else. So, we'll just scoop these in here with a slotted spoon until we have enough. I use 3 different kinds of beans. I use black beans, maybe kidney beans, and pinto beans. I don't really know. All right, so we got all the beans in. Since the beans and the meat are cooked, the veggies are sauteed, we really don't need this to cook very long, just enough for the flavors to meld together. We're gonna add one more thing. This is some frozen corn. This is not corn we grew, although we did grow corn. This is some that our neighbors brought back, and we shucked it and froze it. We had a little bit more seasoning. I'm gonna get some cream cheese. Gonna add some cream cheese. We don't have cheese. We buy our cheese from Azure. We freeze it, we shred it, we slice it, we use it for everything. We like it a little bit too much. We ran out, so we could make this a little bit of a creamy chili to accommodate for that. Okay. So we'll let that melt in there. If you put a little bit of Greek yogurt in too, I use Greek yogurt in everything. I usually make my own Greek yogurt. I have been not on my A game with that. You can make them in your Instant Pot, so easy. It's another thing I was doing before I was homesteading. It's like there was some plastic. Okay, so we're just gonna let this, oops. Okay, so we're just going to let the cream cheese melt, let the flavors come together, simmer for a little bit, maybe thicken up, even though this is a pretty good consistency. So we'll leave this on the stove. Go talk about our 2023 homesteading goals, and then do a taste test. All right, so now that we have the chili cooking, just want to touch on some of my 2023 homestead goals. First and foremost is documenting what I did. I did not do any documentation of homesteading last year, so this is serving that purpose. Even the few photos I had, it was so fun to go back and look at dates and things like that. So really wanting to document everything that we're doing. And then starting in January, doing the pantry challenge, the 3 Rivers Homestead Pantry Challenge, which you can make up your own rules, but basically it's you don't go to the grocery store. So I think we're going to be ready to do that in January. We'll do one last Azure drop. I think it's supposed to come the week of December 25th. We'll be ready to go. We'll live off our canning, the meat we have in the freezer. Really excited for that. Want to raise chickens, broilers again next year, but as you could see, I had to kind of work with a whole chicken. That's how we had them processed, whole chicken. I definitely want to part them out next year, at least some of them, just for convenience, and also make some chicken sausage. We got a meat grinder, so we're able to do that in small batches now, but wanting to maybe take a whole batch of them and do some chicken sausage. From a gardening perspective, not let it get so weedy. I think I might want to use weed fabric or something like that. Definitely towards the end of the summer, I was over it and it was a jungle out there. My root vegetables, none of them really did too well, so looking to improve there. Another thing that I tried to do last year but was not successful is having a fall garden, so doing a second planting of crops in the end of the summer to have a second harvest in the fall. And then finally, I want to do pigs this year. So we'll see. That would be a lot. That'd be a lot to take on, but I would love to have some piggies. So those are the 2023 goals. I think we'll document it, show the challenges. There's more challenges than wins, it kind of seems like, but I'm excited to start the year off with the pantry challenge and work through all this awesome food that we preserved. All right, so the chili is ready. It's off the stove. It's more of an orange chicken chili than a pink chicken chili, but it's delicious, and I think just this meal represents kind of not a different way that I lived from a year ago, but just a shift. We grew the chickens ourselves. We grew the peppers ourselves, the tomato sauce, the chicken stock, and the different things that we've sourced from Azure and different places. So it was fun putting this together. Chili's definitely one of my favorites. So thanks for watching.